Hey guys. Today I want to talk about a topic that is a little bit difficult for me because it's something that I think I've really just started to work through and understand this year, actually. So I'm calling it Unlearning Conditional Love. And I feel like that might not be the clearest title, so hopefully as I get into it, you will see what I mean, and hopefully you can learn from my experience, because this episode's a little bit more personal than some of the previous ones. So if you're still interested, let's get started. So I think that we're all born with a sort of optimism about love, meaning that we expect to give and receive it pretty much no matter what. If we're blessed with loving parents, we grow up observing their behavior, which demonstrates to us that even if we scream all night, fight with our siblings, or embarrass them in public. My mom likes to tell me about a time when my dad was carrying me for hours in the mall, so she asked him to put me down and let me walk, but I refused. She said I stood there frozen like a tiny statue as my parents disappeared into the distance. Then when they came to collect me, I staged a massive rebellion in the form of a tantrum that caused me to lose my voice from crying. I was a chubby-cheeked egomaniac having a very public meltdown. Guess what my parents did after giving me a healthy dose of discipline? They fed me dinner and tucked me in that night. So what did that teach the 4-year-old me? That if I misbehave, they will scold me, but at the end of it, they will love me as if it never happened. I'm definitely not saying my parents are perfect, but because of the way they treated me, I never put my head on the pillow at night wondering if they loved me. I was always certain of it. Eventually, I learned conditional love, but not from my parents. Not from my siblings either, because I still can't tell who adores who more. Not from my doting grandmother who retired from her job when we were young to spend all of her time with us. I learned conditional love as a young adult, but the when is different for everyone who has experienced it. So we all start off with a clean slate, expecting unconditional love, meaning we all feel intrinsically deserving of love until some relationship, be it with a parent, a sibling, a very close friend, a relative, or a significant other, shows us that we aren't. If you have never experienced this, count your blessings. You are truly, truly blessed. But keep watching because it's so likely that someone close to you has, and armed with this information, you may be able to help them recognize it. It could happen very early in your development if, let's say for example, you have very anxious, perfectionist parents who constantly pressure you to succeed and make them proud. In this environment, you grow up learning that when your grades or achievements are imperfect, you cause your parents distress. They most likely have good intentions, but the message that they're sending you is that you're personally responsible for mitigating their anxiety. So it massively stresses you out when you fail to do so. You feel worthy if and only if you measure up, so you become hyper-vigilant, exercising as much control as possible over every situation to avoid failure. You may be wondering where I learned conditional love then. I learned it from relationships, from significant others. My first was my high school/college boyfriend, whom we will call Josh. Josh always made me feel inadequate. He would go silent for long periods of time, then praise me when I did his homework, bought him things, or did pretty much anything to his benefit. He always seemed very interested in other young women, even right in front of my face. I'll never forget a time when we were walking together, holding hands, when what felt like 3 identical sorority girls approached. Upon seeing them, Josh dropped my hand, hugged each one of them, and when one of the girls asked who I was, he went ahead and introduced me as a friend from back home. The first thing I noticed was that I didn't look like them, so a voice in my head told me that I'm probably unattractive. I decided that they definitely didn't seem cooler, smarter, or funnier than I was, so it had to be looks, right? I started to distort myself, thinking things like, why is every feature on my face so big? Maybe it's just because they all had blonde hair and blue eyes and that's more desirable. You know, if I could just lose another 5 pounds, that never would have happened. These were the things I was telling myself. To me, that was the only way I could explain him taking them to dances and socials at his fraternity instead of me. Josh told me that he loved me, but his actions taught me that I wasn't good enough. I resolved to work harder on myself. My post-college relationship with who we will call Ahmed was a totally different situation, but with many of the same lessons on love. Ahmed centered his world around me for the first few years. Everything was fine, until it wasn't. It got to a point where it seemed like his mood would go from kind and fun to enraged if I stepped on the wrong crack in the floor. It felt like he had so many triggers, and talking to him at the wrong time or not covering every square inch of my skin when I went out on the weekends could earn me a screaming match and the silent treatment for a week or more. Since I'm a hardworking individual and I really dedicate myself to things, I tried to learn each trigger and tactfully avoid them. But just as I was avoiding the triggers, he would invent new ones. The rules kept getting stricter until I felt like breathing in itself was an offense. There was this constant uncertainty around whether I was behaving correctly enough to earn Ahmed's love. It took getting out of it to learn that it wasn't love, it was control exercised as highly conditional love. So now I know that in my brain, but emotionally I hold on to the habits that I developed from it, because knowing and labeling a relationship as conditionally loving doesn't heal you from the self-monitoring behaviors you learned while you were in it. That must be a conscious effort, which could take as long as you were in the relationships or longer to work through. If you spent 10 years learning that every uncomfortable situation was your fault, it could take you 10 or more to learn that you don't have control over everything. I'm now dating an individual from an exceptionally attentive family who only knows unconditional love. I'm realizing how my expectation of conditional love distorts the way I perceive the relationship. It manifests as me being terrified of conflict. If something bothers me, I wait to speak about it until I filter out my emotions to make sure that I don't misstep or come off too strongly. I judge and label my feelings to invalidate them, then I judge myself for being judgmental. When conflicts occur, I avoid them. I feel a deep compulsion to escape the situation. I constantly try to leave and be alone. After the conflict, I find it hard to understand how he still loves me. I feel like I know I still love him because that's just how I am, but why does he still love me? For example, once we argued about something super stupid, as most arguments are, and after it I went silent. About 30 minutes after the argument, he was upset that I didn't say goodnight, so he called me. I was thinking, why would he call me? Like, didn't we just argue? So why would he want to talk to me? But of course he wants to talk to me, and that's how it's supposed to be. This relationship is reteaching me what my family taught me, that letting someone know you love them after an argument is not a sign of weakness. On the contrary, it's a sign of very genuine love. I also find myself trying to do everything perfectly as a sort of insurance policy, so if anything goes wrong, I can check a box that says, you know, it's not my fault because I didn't make a mistake, and that's just not human. You know, I take exceptional care of myself. I try to be good at everything. I take even the smallest criticism as a sign that I need to work harder. If I feel a little grumpy or tired and show it in the most minor ways, I find myself apologizing profusely afterward. I even replay situations, going through them in my mind with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that I didn't make any errors that I should be apologizing for or avoiding. And what I'm seeing now is that, barring any major relationship-ending offenses, such as breaking the contract between you two, you shouldn't strike out with someone who loves you unconditionally because he or she loves you for who you are, not for your achievements or how you make them look. This person doesn't love you because you're the most beautiful, smartest, funniest, coolest, most athletic, or for what you give them. This person loves you because of the cocktail of realities that make you you, which means the best gift you can offer in return is the most authentic version of you that doesn't constantly monitor and filter itself. This person wants to love the real you the way, in my case, my family does. If you find yourself constantly measuring your worth to explain away situations when you weren't treated with love and kindness, then it might be time to reevaluate your relationships. If the relationship is with a parent or a sibling, I say work through it, maybe seek some therapy. If the relationship is with a friend or a significant other, I say life is too short. Find people who love you for the right reasons, or you will spend your whole life trying to measure up to a level of perfected mastery that doesn't exist. People who love you will not expect perfection. They will expect kindness, effort, and pure intentions. So we got personal today. I hope this episode spoke to some of you. And if you liked it, please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel as I post a new video every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's all for today. As always, there's more talk to come soon. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.